I remember when I started these streams, I think it's almost 2 years ago. And I was sitting here and I hadn't set everything up the way I have now, so I had to every time move the camera, put it on a tripod. I had no preset settings in the computer and I had no idea what I was doing. I remember it was quite stressful because the first time I didn't even post it, I just started streaming and people started joining, which was really fun. But I had very poor routines about it. Hey Nicole, nice to see you. I had no routines for how to start, so I would just sit down and I go, actually I would take 1 hour before I started to go out here just to be sure that I have everything set up, and I would have to start you have to make write down the stream in YouTube to prepare it, and then you have to go live once you have the camera working, and it never worked, and it was always problems. And hey Emily, nice to see you. And there was all these things that didn't function because I think I had another camera then, and the streaming function didn't work. Now I bought a proper stream link, I have a microphone set up here, then I had to move it every time. I actually bought an extra set of microphones and an extra camera just so that I could have this set up the whole time. I'll show you one day, but I have lights put up on stands on the wall so that I always have the lights set up, instead of like I did before, every time set them up and I try do new lighting, and everything was... It took effort every time I would start to do the stream, because I'd have to go through the motions and I didn't know exactly what I was doing. And there were a few times when I couldn't get on because it didn't work. A few times when I just didn't know what was wrong and I just couldn't get it to work. And other times it just worked. But gradually as I progressed, I understood more, okay, how do these systems function? How do I get the stream to just come alive every time without taking an hour? Because I have a family inside that Marilyn is inside putting the kids to bed, and I want to help out with that, and I need to help out with that, because especially now when we have two and they're getting older, it takes a lot of effort. So I started looking at, what do I need to make this as effortless as possible so that it becomes more of a routine? What is it that I'm missing? And I realized, well, I have to invest in another camera. I have to invest in another microphone. I need to buy some kind of stand so that the lights are always there. And it wasn't easy because I had them in front of me, which means I couldn't walk around here, so I took up all that space for the lights. So I had to find a solution, which was to put the stands on the wall. By the way, I have a point where I'm going with this. It's not just me rambling. I just came up with this now when I started talking. So I had to come up with stands on the wall that could hold the lights on these big booms. And I didn't even know they existed before, but I figured that out. I have a beam up here above me that holds like a backlight. It holds a light. Exactly, that's where I'm going with this. I had a light, like I had to clamp them up there, and at first I didn't have a system for that, so I had to like tape them, and it worked, but it was not really that functional, and it was not as easy as I wanted it to be. So I realized I need to have proper tools for that. I need to have proper systems for making this work. The only thing I have now that's not really working is the blue light. I don't have it continuously connected. It's battery driven, so every 5 streams or so I have to take it down, go inside and charge it, which seems like it's not a lot of effort. But it is something I have to do every 5 streams, so that's every 2.5 weeks. I have to take the lamp in and charge it, and it's a hindrance to me actually doing that. So it adds some friction to making this look the way it is. But after 2 years, I have a system that works very frictionless. It does not take a lot of time. I can come out here, I can start my computer. It takes about half a minute to start up. I have to start everything in a certain order, which was something I didn't get. If I start the stream software before the camera, then the software will get stuck. If I change certain things on the computer at the same time, the computer will get stuck. And I learned by making mistakes. So now I know pretty well how to do this. There are some things I would like to make better and I would like to change, but in general, I'm very happy with it. So today I can come out, I need 5 minutes pretty much, preferably 10. If I have 20 minutes, and I can take a really calm setup and just like make sure everything's okay, answer some comments, and then I sit down and I start the stream. So it's much easier. The reason I'm telling you this is because it took effort and a consciously working out where I wanted to get. So I had an idea what I wanted to do, and I had to consciously change my surroundings to make that function, or to make that work. If I would have just done the same thing over and over, gone out here, tried it like I did in the beginning, I tried new setups, I tried all these kind of things, and then if I would have continued doing that, I couldn't start in 5 minutes, because then it would be, I just have this new system, I have the new set. I always have the same settings on the camera. I always have everything the same. I don't have to set that out every time. It's done. But if I would change that and experiment with the lights, I could probably adjust it better. I mean, I absolutely could. But if I would do that every time, it would take longer for me to get started. It would mean that it would be more effort, which would make it more likely that I go, oh, you know what, today I'm kind of tired. I think I'll just skip streaming today because it takes too much effort. So by knowing what it is that I want to do, and by doing some research in the beginning of what do I actually need, I have now developed a routine, a system that makes it so that I can go out here, be online in 5 minutes, and have the stream up and running. No problem. When it comes to meditation and your practice, there's a lot of similarities that you can draw between these. Actually, I started talking about it and then it came to my mind because it's so true. It's exactly the same. What people tend to do when they start meditating is the same as I did when I was setting this up. It's new. It's fun. What camera should I get? I should probably get a really expensive camera, right? Like really expensive. The bigger, the better. Like I need to have the best thing to make it work. I need to have all these special lights and all these ideas of what you should or shouldn't have. And then you try new things the whole time. You try it and you look at it and like, oh yeah, I'm going to try some new today. That's exciting because now I have this look for like the last few times. I'm going to make something new. I'm going to make it different. And then I change it every week. I change something new. People do the same with meditation. They go out, they find a technique, and then they do it for a while. And like, yeah, that's cool. Oh, that's fun. Oh, look, it works. I'm actually online. I'm actually doing something. Same with the meditation. I'm actually getting some kind of results. Something's happening. It's fun. But after a few weeks, you get bored and like, I'm going to try something else. And so you go online and you look for all these different techniques and you're like, oh, that's the hyper kundalini awakening, spiritual kriya yoga, absolute latest cutting edge technology based on the oldest teachings, and that's going to cut through all your impurities and make you enlightened or liberated within a few weeks. 60-day program, it's amazing. And you run after the next thing. And when you sit down, before you had your routine and you're starting to get into it, but now you have a new thing and you go, okay, I'm really going to get good at this and I'm trying the new one, and you're like, it's fun and it's exciting. It's like, oh, how does this work? And you listen to recordings and guided meditations, and then you maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, maybe you start stumbling because what worked before is not working anymore. So then you jump to another one and you try something else, and you think, oh, okay, well this is the magic technique, and because your friend had that technique and they had this amazing experience where they had conversations with their past lifetime themselves from another lifetime, and they're like, oh, I want to do that. So you start doing that technique, but it doesn't work for you, or it works one time and then it doesn't work at all. So you look for the next thing. And you never develop the systems and the knowledge of the technique you're actually using. So while saying this, I realized that I trash talk Goenka's Vipassana retreats quite a lot, because they are very like, do this, nothing else. You're not even allowed to think about anything else. Okay, maybe not that bad, but you're not allowed to do any other practice. If you want to go there, you should stop all others and just do this technique. They're very restrictive in what they allow their students to do, because they think you should just do this, nothing else. So I'm not saying don't become religious and zealous about your technique, saying this is the only technique, but choose a technique that's not too complicated, that's not too fancy, nothing weird, just something that you enjoy, and just do that. And then do that over and over and over again until you know how it works. Until you have a routine where you know, okay, well, I do this every day and I do it at the same time every day. If you have kids, if you have like a flexible lifestyle, like most people who have family does, then obviously be flexible. It's not like 7 o'clock, I have to start. If something happens, do it later, but have it so that you do every day the same routine. And have it so that you have a place where you can sit that is comfortable for you to sit. So you don't have to every time, unless you make it part of your routine. Say, for instance, in your living room, you have to take out the cushion, you have to put it out, put it on the pillow, and you have to prepare it, and you have to close the blinds. That could be a ritual in and of itself that's part of the meditation, for sure. But then you need to have time to do that. If you only have a few minutes and you don't have the time to sit down, to sit longer than you want to, like you want to sit 20 minutes but you have 15. Sorry, you want to sit 20 minutes and you have 20 minutes, that's all you have, then you need to cut down the time before and after. But there's nothing that says that you can't have that as part of your routine or your meditation, where you close the windows, pull out the cushion, sit down, put something behind your bum so you sit comfortably, light incense. I never light incense, but if you want to do that, whatever you want, whatever you like. The point I'm trying to get is that if you want to actually get good at doing this stuff, it's not about finding the perfect teacher, the perfect technique, the perfect meditation space. People are so obsessed with being where there's good energies, and absolutely it is a different feeling to meditate in different places and spaces. But don't let that turn you into believing you can't do wherever you are. Instead, just find something that works for you and then just stick to that and give it at least half a year. Like really half a year. I've been doing pretty much the same thing for the last 2025. So yeah, I don't think I've changed what I done for the last 13 years. Very little. Like I have refined what I do, but I pretty much do the same thing I did 13 years ago. It's just that I'm much more fluent in what I do, and I have an understanding of what is happening that is so much deeper than it was when I started. And granted, I was coming up with all of this myself because I figured that what other people were doing wasn't giving them what I wanted to have or where I wanted to go, and it wasn't functioning the way at least my criteria for functioning, it wasn't working. So I had to come up with something myself and pick ideas and things that worked and then like combine my own thing. But except for that, it's just been the same thing, and it's very simple. I believe simplicity is the best way to do it. If you have something that's very complicated, that requires special mantras that you can only be handed down from a special teacher, I never believed in that. I never heard anyone who does that I thought like, wow, I wish I had that. So make sure that you have a routine that works for you. Make sure you have a system that functions for you, not because someone else says it's cool or awesome or gives some experience. Like no, that you actually believe in, and be really clear about what do you actually want from your practice. It's clear for me that I enjoy doing these evenings because they give me something in that I understand my practice better when I discuss it with you. It gives me a chance, an opportunity to have questions and question my own beliefs and ideas of how this works, and it makes it clearer for me, and it makes it so that I can develop my system of teaching and understanding better, so I have a clear understanding of why I'm here. Why are you here? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you want to meditate? I see Nicole say, I've had the same meditation routine for about 6 years and it has been very helpful. Exactly. That's amazing. That's very rare to hear someone say that, Nicole. Usually they just jump and they have a routine for a few months or half a year or a year, but then very few people actually practice it. So be clear on what it is you want, and it might be that changes. It might be that you believe this is what I wanted, and then you were looking for that and found, you know what, it's not feels true anymore. This is not where I want to go, and then you change it. And I think that's a natural progression. People have different phases they go through, and having seen hundreds or thousands of people go through meditation and spiritual practice, there is a pattern that everyone goes through, and it's the same. And it's very easy to be in my seat and say, oh, you're going to get over this. But you have to understand that yourself, and you might not get over that. You might actually think that's the main thing. The techniques have changed, though. I haven't found my favorite. Okay, so the main thing there is that you don't change like every week, but actually choose something that works or feels good for you. And ultimately, the techniques are not important. Again, for me, the technique is just the method. It's similar to saying, imagine you're gonna, okay, this is so worked out, this what do you call it, the metaphor. Imagine you're gonna cut down a tree and you have an axe. You could spend a lot of time discussing what's the best way to grind an axe. Is it to have a stone and go against the stone so you sharpen away from yourself? Is it to do it towards you? And how do you flip it? That makes a difference, because if you do it, one will make the edge go over there's tiny particles that come when you sharpen the edge, and one will make it go over, one will pull it towards you. Or is the best to do it on a wheel? A wheel that's rotating a stone. And if you do that, there are some implications to doing that, because you won't have a completely flat edge. Now you'll have an edge that is kind of a little bit like this. Is it better or worse? I'm not saying it is either or. And then after that, you have to cut down the tree. So you need to choose what tree to cut down. Let's just assume for parallels that you only have one tree, which is your sense of self. That's the only thing you have to cut down. But there are different techniques you can use for cutting down. Like, should you hit with everything you have like this, just straight into it? Or is it better to have from underneath, above, underneath, above? Should you stand wide-legged? Like, there's a lot of ways that you can discuss the techniques for how to cut down the tree. And many people fall in love with, how should I sharpen the axe? How should I do that? What's the best technique? But they don't cut. And for me, meditation is the sharpening of the axe. That's like, how do you actually sharpen the axe to make it really sharp? And a lot of people have very, very, very blunt axes. That's why we need to meditate. But then after that, you also need to discuss the technique of what are you actually trying to do. Because a lot of people see it as, I meditate, I take away my impurities, and then I just live daily life. And I try to be aware, and like you have some, what do you call it, the precepts or motto, like rules that you follow. But like, how do you actually do that? Like, what are you trying to do? That's also another part. It's very easy to fall in love with that part and then not do the practice itself, which is to cut down the tree. And you have to be clear about what does that mean. If you're here, if you're listening to me, very likely what you're trying to do is to learn how to enjoy life. Not your life story, not the things that are happening to you, but just being alive for the sake of being alive. Because that is possible. And there is something that you do when you don't feel a sense of self. And there are certain techniques that you can do to realize that. But that takes effort. And that actually, like standing like this and discussing sharpening the axe, that's not very difficult in comparison. Discussing what technique to use, take a few swings, that's not so difficult. But actually going up to the tree and the whole day standing there cutting, hitting. That is exhausting. It takes effort. And people don't want to do that because that hits with like the difficult part. It's much more fun to discuss the axe. And what axe are you using? Oh, the axe is so much fun to discuss. So don't get distracted and caught up in the whole idea of how to do meditation or what it's like the magical thing. Just choose something that resonates. And I highly recommend you to choose something that's very simple. The simpler the technique that you're using for your meditation, the better. Because the more complicated it is, the less you're very likely going away from what you're actually trying to do. Because complicated things, they can be useful in that it kind of short circuits the brain. If you believe, have you ever seen there's an old movie, Field of Dreams, I think it's called, with Kevin Costner, when he's a golf player and he gets in a bad strut and he can't hit the ball. It just like goes wrong. And then his coach comes and says, well, to do this, I think it's at least Kevin Costner, maybe he says it to someone else. Okay, so to fix this, change, where do you have your pennies in your pocket? Oh, I have them in my right. You need to put them in your right pocket. And your shoelaces, you need to tie them in a specific way. And then he looks at him and says, yes, your shirt, you need to tuck it in the back. And he changes like all these things. And Kevin Costner goes like, what? Like, what's going on here? Like, this is weird. And then he shoots and like, it worked. He got a hole in one. I maybe didn't get a hole in one, but like a par boogie. I don't know what they're called. But like, he shot really well. The point being that the reason he did all that was because that got him so preoccupied with like, wait, what am I doing here? That he stopped thinking about actually shooting, and he just did what he already knew how to do. So by making the meditation routine or technique complicated, you can sometimes short circuit that, making it so that, you stop thinking about, am I doing it right? Am I doing it, the sense of self, because you're so focused on, okay, I need to do it this way, and that's how it works. And you might have the belief that if I do it this way, it's special. And so then you can relax because of that. But in the long run, I just see that creating more problems than helping out. So simple and something that's easy to repeat over and over and over again, because you need to do this not for a few months. I can pretty much promise you that you're not going to get liberated within the next half year, because I still haven't met anyone who's completely liberated. So that's not something that you're going to do by finding the right technique. It's much more beneficial to see this as a long-term project that you do. Just like my studio setup, I spent a lot of time, effort and money to make this into something that is a system and a routine for me, so that I can come out and in 5 minutes sit down and start streaming. You should have the same thing with your meditation. You should have something that works for you, where you can sit down. You don't have to start thinking. You don't need to listen to any tapes to figure out like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? No, you're so familiar with it. You know the obstacles you can run into, or if you don't, you have someone you can ask. Like, obviously this is a good place to ask, or maybe you have someone else, but you know what to do, and you just keep on doing that, and don't get too caught up in all the other stuff. I just thought that was a funny bridge to what I started out with the studio, and how setting that up was very important, because this is very similar. You need to do the same thing with the meditation and find something that works for you. Now, what works for someone else, what someone else says is this has to be this way, because that can be different from person to person. Nice. Anyone have any questions today, or any thoughts about this? I'd love to hear you share about your own techniques as well. Like Nicole was saying, she's done the same thing for 6 years. It's something that's quite rare for people to do, because most people get bored after a while and then do something else. There is something to be said also for having different techniques for different situations. So for instance, today we're going to do something called box breathing, which is also called tactical breathing sometimes, meaning we breathe in for 4, we hold our breath for 4, we breathe out for 4, we hold our breath for 4, we breathe in for 4, we hold our breath for 4, we breathe out for 4, we hold our breath for 4. It's very cold, still haven't left me. And what that does is a really powerful and strong way to calm you down. It makes it very easy to in tough situations, be able to become centered. And that is a technique that I wouldn't use all the time or for everything, but for very specific use cases, it can be incredibly useful. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back to sleep, really, because you have thoughts coming, really good technique. If you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or a panic attack coming on, really good technique. There are other techniques that work for that as well, but having a few tools that you can apply every now and then is very useful. Nicole, I do so hum mantra and then listen to the sound in my ears. Oh yeah, some people like here we focus mostly on the breathing, but absolutely you can use your ears. There are some people who use the Namaste JVB. Nice to see you. Some people focus on the colors behind their eyelids. That's something you can use. There's a lot of different things that you can use for your object of meditation, and they all work. JVB always has good questions. Do you have something on your mind, JVB? We have a few more minutes before we're going to start. We have 5 minutes, but still. Or if anyone else has any questions, feel free to ask them. Writing it. How are you able to write it while you writing it? That is very interesting. By the way, I'm going to prepare apps. I have everything ready. Let's see. By the way, I'll explain what I'm gonna wait for JVB's question. What we're gonna do it later, as I said, is box breathing, and I'll have a timer that we can listen to where we breathe in, and you can follow the sounds. It'll be breathing in 4 seconds, holding breath 4 seconds, breathing out 4 seconds, holding breath 4 seconds, and we'll do that for 7 minutes. After those 7 minutes are done, we'll just sit by ourselves for the next 13 minutes. It's a really nice way to start a meditation with some kind of breathing exercise, because generally they tend to be good at really grabbing a hold of yourself, so you're really there and focused on your breath or on the mantra or whatever you're doing. But then you eventually it works much better if you let go of them, because they bring a lot of energy with them, and then they're quite strong in that sense, which is good for certain things, but for actually getting deep and calm and being aware of what's happening is not necessarily the best. So doing that first can be a really nice way, a nice segue into your sitting and your meditation that comes after. Which is one of the reasons I started having Thursdays, for the specific reason. CJVB. How could I be kind to the most vile, mean, disgusting people? I'm usually mellow and I don't loom for trouble, but sometimes I'm disappointed and surprised how angry I get when people can be so cruel. Any recommendations? Yes, first of all, why do you need to be kind to them? And what do you mean by being kind? There's no reason for you to be that. What you should be focusing on is to not be angry at them or upset with them. But that's not the same as saying you want to be kind towards them. And the reason I say that is because, and they're very selfish reasons, and at the same time the most unselfish thing you can do. So by focusing on how you relate to them rather than what you do to them, you take away the sense of self that you have towards them. Because when you say they're the most vile, mean, disgusting people, that's your opinion. I mean, I know you from having chatted with you for a long time, so very likely my opinion would maybe be similar, I would assume. But that's not the point. The point is that it's your perspective saying they're bad, violent, and evil people. There are other people who would say the opposite, and they might actually think you're the one who's being vile, mean, and disgusting, even though they might be completely insane and just so full of themselves, believing that they're better than everyone else. It doesn't matter. My point is that when we react with the sense of self going in, I live in America, just for context. Oh, well, say no more. Let's just say that I agree with you. And this is something I practice with, that particular thing. The thing is that by focusing on how you relate to them rather than what they do, you get away from this whole problem with trying to love someone you hate, kind of like, we can't do that. We can't be nice to someone when we hate them, like it's impossible. But if instead you say someone who behaves in the ways you're saying, and you feel like, oh, these are disgusting, vile people, and you don't like them for doing that, there's a feeling going like, oh, I hate this, like, oh, I'm so upset with them. Your reaction towards them will always be anger, irritation, and you might be able to push that down by saying loving kindness for all living human beings, I'm not going to be upset with them, but underneath that, that's the feeling you have inside. So by working on that feeling rather than working on being kind to them, what you do is you take away your anger, your feeling of them being wrong or being terrible as people, and you can take that away. And I would say the feeling of them being wrong. I'm not saying they are not wrong, I'm saying the feeling. And when you take that away, all of a sudden you don't have to defend your position. There's no fight, there's no argument. It's just them doing stupid shit. Like seriously, like really dumb stuff. But you don't feel, peace out, I can't believe, like, I'm so angry at this, can't they see? You take that away, and instead you'll just see they're doing really dumb stuff. But you can also probably see, because you're no longer in there fighting it, like being like, oh, I'm so angry with them. Like, oh, you know what? I understand why they're doing that, because they're upset about this. And they believe this is the cause for that, so that's why they're doing that. Oh, well, that's interesting. Instead of just saying they're idiots, like, they actually have a reason for their line of thinking that makes sense to them. And if you can do that, next time you talk to someone who's like that, you won't go in and like have this like, put your feet down and you really dig your heels in, like, now we're going to have an argument. Instead, it's going to be, okay, why do you feel this way? And they can explain, and you might be able to explain to them, well, you know what? And not in a patronizing way, which is what I see when a lot of people try to be calm towards others. They talk up as if they're higher than them, and you guys are just down there. And I think that really doesn't work. There's few people who can accept that. So instead, you can just be open and you can listen to them. And yeah, they're dumb. They don't get what they're saying. But I don't need to feel that way. I don't need to get upset with this. And maybe that would make it so that you'll see, oh, you know what? A solution for this situation is that we do this. Something you never would have thought about before, because before you were just so preoccupied with fighting, and your emotions were just making so that I won't even talk to these people because they're so bad. Also, I didn't mean to write, I don't loom for trouble. I mean, don't look for trouble. Yeah, I assume so, no problem. So really focus on how you're relating to them rather than what they're doing. And then after you've been able to calm that down, so you're in a space where you can actually talk, then try to do something about it. And in your situation, I'm assuming there's not a lot of stuff you can actually do about it, except be kind to people around you, to help the people that you think need help, and to support the people you think need support. It really is very similar to loving kindness, but it's not in the sense that we push down what we feel, but instead have yourself feel this and see that you, the feeling of you are, like, you are that feeling. Like, your distortions are creating you, and the feeling of you is in that distortion. So that's literally where you reside. The anger you feel towards them, when you say they're idiots, like all this stuff, hey Stephen, you feel towards these people who you don't agree with, the feeling of you is that anger. That is you. That's what you're creating in that moment. And I don't mean that as in manifestation. I mean, that's how you are created, by these polarizing views. And unfortunately, social media and politics and all those kind of things today have really, they're thriving on that. They thrive on the conflict, because that is the self. The self thrives on conflict. It thrives on fighting. It thrives on all this like drama. That's why it's so popular, because when they do that stuff, they get views, they get likes or dislikes, they get comments, they get people talking about it, and they become popular, even if people don't agree with them. So it's really playing into the sense of self by doing all of this stuff. And I highly recommend you to focus more on you and your reaction towards them. And then when you can feel calm about it, then by all means go out and do something. But unless you're really in a situation where you need to do something, don't focus on that. Don't try being kind to them, because you'd just be like false. That would be like you doing something you don't believe in. If you saw one of these people you'd call most vile, mean, disgusting, I'm assuming they're not going around murdering people. Some of them might be, but unless they are, and you need to actually stay away from them because they're dangerous, if you would see them in an accident fall on the road, you would just help them. You would be kind to them in that sense. But it doesn't mean you go up and be kind to them and say like, hey, you want a cookie? Like, I see you telling people that I should like be killed or whatever, but like, here you go, here's a cookie. That's just like not the same thing. So I hope you understand what I'm saying with this. And this is the reason why I never tell people what to do, in the sense of how to answer, or like, how should I call it, like what you should do in this situation towards those people. But I can help you with how you relate to those people. And when you change how you relate to them, you will know the best way to handle that situation. I will never know that, because you are in that situation, and you know the context, you know the nuances, you know that person or don't know that person much better than I ever will. Nicole, I think the Buddha said something like, when you're angry, it is like taking poison and thinking they will suffer. Yeah, that's also a good way to think about it. It's not quite what I'm getting at here, but it's also a good point in that when you're angry, you think you're hurting them, but you're actually hurting yourself. What I'm saying is that when you're angry, you are creating yourself. That's literally what you're doing. The feeling of anger is you. That is what you are in that moment. That's why you feel so strong and so powerful when you're angry. which is why people like getting angry, because I'm here, I'm this. When I feel superior to other people, I'm strong, I'm powerful. That's a strong sense of self, which is like the opposite of what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to be weak or like not care about things. We're just trying to work out, how do I enjoy this moment of being right here, right now? How do I enjoy this experience of life? Not what's happening to me, not what all these crazy, vile people are doing. No, just being alive. Because even if they are violent, doing terrible things, you can still enjoy being here. Jivy, I think I get you. Don't become anger. Yes, that's pretty much it. But don't suppress anger. You have to allow yourself to feel that anger and see that that's you. If you just push it down and think, I shouldn't feel anger, no, then you're missing the point completely. You really have to allow yourself to feel that anger and say, hey, basically what the Buddha said, according to Nicole, that you're taking poison. Why are you doing that? That's stupid. Don't do it. Don't take poison. Poison is bad. Like, stop taking poison. I mean, yeah, actually, when I think about it like that, that's a pretty good saying. You need to see how this is dumb. You need to see how it's an idiotic and futile exercise to go around being angry with people. It really doesn't help at all. You feel you're powerful, you feel you're strong, but that's just because you are in this reactive state and you're really manifesting a strong sense of self, which always hurts in the long run, which always is poison. Which is why seeing it for what it is, poison, it makes you think, hey, wait a minute, this is stupid. I'm going to stop doing this, even though they are idiots. And like I said, if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, I agree with you. But that doesn't matter. You need to see the situation for what it is. Just someone else doing something, and they can do that. And then you can learn to relate to that without anger, fear, and all of those things. And then you can face that situation and do your best to resolve it in the way that you believe is the best way to do it. You can also think if you had their life, maybe you would think this. Okay, that is true, but I disagree with that, because what you're doing then, and I've said things that are kind of like that, but I don't think that's a good way, because then what you've done is that you haven't faced your anger. What you've done is you just kind of diffused it a little bit. You actually haven't gotten to the point where you feel, oh yeah, this is my anger, this is me. We by changing your perspective, you have never faced anything. If I come home and I see a pair of male underwear that aren't mine, and there's like socks and stuff lying in our living room, like, oh my goodness, my fiance, she's been cheating on me. And I get so upset and I feel that anger, like jealousy coming up. And then I find out that it was actually some people who had forgotten their clothes in the cottage that we rent out, and she had just dropped them when she was going inside. I'm like, oh, that's so stupid of me. It was just me kind of like seeing the situation wrong. I haven't faced the fact that I had jealousy, that I had anger, that I was defending something, meaning I haven't really learned anything from this. The only thing I've done is I've learned how to make excuses to not trigger this part of me that gets angry. So by doing what Nicole is saying, it's not that doesn't work, it's just that it doesn't lead to anything long term. I mean, it's better than like being angry about it, but it doesn't really. It's the difference of pushing down the grass so that it's lying down, because now it's not up, but then as soon as there's sunlight and rain, the grass is going to grow up. It's a comparison to pushing the grass down and actually pulling it up, pulling the weeds out. If you face your anger, if you face your jealousy, then you pull it up. So again, there's nothing wrong with doing what you're suggesting, Nicole, but it doesn't hit the root of the problem, which is you are anger. You are jealousy, and you need to face that. You need to feel it. Not go into it and like, oh, I like it. No, actually go into it and say, this is poison. Oh, I like that. Thank you for bringing that up, Nicole. That's actually a really good way of seeing it. It is pure poison, and you are just taking it over and over and over again. It's just dumb. JV, right, I shouldn't be too surprised when I feel anger. I am human after all. That's a really good way of saying like, oh, I don't need to work on this because I'm human after all. I couldn't possibly overcome this because I'm human after all, right? It's human nature. Yes, it is. But we're not talking about doing what everyone else does. We're talking about enjoying being alive all the time. And to do that, you have to overcome your sense of self, which is basically the same as saying overcoming your human nature, your conditioning that you've been brought up to believe this is how one has to react. It's normal. Everyone gets angry. We're not going to look at that. There's nothing wrong with being angry. Or ask, what is the feeling underneath the judgment? That also helps. Yeah, for sure. What comes after? Because then you have to look at that. It's all about feelings. I'm not so into doing what would you call that? They call it something, not analytical practice. It's called questioning. It has a name. When you go in and try to answer like these questions to figure things out, because ultimately what you're trying to do is not to understand this. You're trying to feel this. And when you stop focusing on, oh, this is that emotion, I'm like jealous, it doesn't matter. It's poison. Just feel the freaking poison and understand that it's a stupid thing to do. And then you'll stop doing it eventually. That's really how simple it is. Like if I would narrow down everything I say, that's it. And it's very harsh, and a lot of people will be triggered because like, well, it's not my fault. It's human nature. Like I don't have to, like, it's poison. You're taking the poison. I'm sorry. It sucks. And it's a stupid thing to do, but we've been brought up to do it. We believe it's natural to do it. You have to overcome that and see how silly it is to do that. And then when you do, you will have to let go of this, like, oh, I don't want to not feel bad about this because it feels so good to feel angry about this because they're wrong. And we don't know who we would be without that anger, which is exactly why that means you're giving up the sense of self. Really good discussion. That's an awesome question, JVB. You always have these good questions. Okay, I don't want to make it too late, so we're going to start right away with the meditation after. Thank you so much. It's what I said in the beginning. I love coming here because it helps me gain more clarity about my practice and understand it better by explaining it to you and by getting questions. And thank you, Nicole, for the Buddha quote. Really helpful. Yeah, I like it too. That was a good, I actually understand that quote. That's not how I've had it explained, but from this context, that quote makes a lot more sense. When you think about it, if you think about the distortions being poison, then yes, you are taking poison. And the silly thing is that we take that poison and be like, serves them right. Look how angry I am. I remember when I was younger and I had I was a teenager and drama queen. I'm so angry. Imagine if I went out and I died now. That would show them, huh? I would show them how they'd be so stupid. Oh my goodness. JVB, I'll get better at not getting too angry at Martin eventually. Well, I'm a good person to practice at. Just ask Mariline, she'll agree with you. There's plenty of reason to get angry with me. Let's see. Bringing that one down. Time to meditate. We'll do 3 rings of the bell. I'll start the meditation, the guidance, so you can listen to it, and I'll do it with you a few times so you can understand what the sound means. And then after that, just keep on sitting for the rest of the time. In, hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for a really nice discussion before also. It's nice that we can all learn something and find new perspectives. I'm just thinking like, oh, I wish there were more ways to do this more often. If I had more time, I'd have more sittings. I hope you'll have an amazing weekend and really think about what we said before with feeling anger and the whole thing with you're actually poisoning yourself. If you think about it, that the distortion is the poison. You're just hurting yourself. There's no point in doing this, even though it makes sense, because they're so dumb in what they're doing, and it's not about agreeing with what they do. It's about changing how you relate to what they do. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you back on Monday again. Thank you very much.